If you follow the money from lending partner to venture capital to CEO, they're giving people like me the money. And they're saying, you have to allocate this capital like a hedge fund manager. You got to put it in the bets that are going to make the company more money, more enterprise value. You have to get very good at being able to advocate and then allocate the capital. I think that's like two very critical, very important chief level responsibilities. You have to be an expert at telling the story using like the data and the dollars to show why this plan is going to create more enterprise value.
How are you using this data to plead your case?
Once you get the marketing budget, both in terms of like non-comp spend and comp spend for people and programs, you're all coming at the problem from the same place, which is like, okay, well, we already determined marketing has a number. Now that marketing has a number, we already determined how marketing's budget is being produced. Now we have the budget, let's go deploy that. The deployment of that is all nuanced to the business.
Welcome to Go-to-Market Science, the podcast for CROs and revenue leaders scaling mature B2B companies. There's an art and there's a science to go-to-market, and we're obsessed with the science. In this podcast, we share tangible, actionable playbooks from the trenches, from what we're learning working as go-to-market strategy and RevOps consultants for our clients here at Union Square Consulting, and candid conversations with revenue leaders in the market that have been there. If this podcast delivers value, we'd love a 5-star rating and a follow. Now let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode of CRO Stories. My name is Rachel Buchert. I'm your host, and today I am speaking with Andrea Kayal, Chief Revenue Officer at Help Scout. Andrea, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So for folks who might not be very familiar with Help Scout, can you give us a quick overview what Help Scout does and what your revenue organization looks like?
Absolutely. So Help Scout is a customer support platform. We serve small and medium-sized businesses. And we have recently just launched a whole slew of incredible AI products because as customer support becomes more and more important in organizations from a growth and brand perspective, helping them support customers as efficiently as possible is going to be key in the future. So we have some exciting things on the roadmap, and we're over a $35 million business.
Nice. Awesome. And are you guys mostly like product-led or sales-led?
50-50. 50% of the new ARR comes in from product-led. And that's typically from a company size from like 1 to 10 employees. But over 10 employees, you typically need sales to help you make sure you understand like all the features and functionality. So that's how we kind of split that up, and it's 50-50.
Awesome. So, Andrea, you've had a really interesting career path. You started out as a CMO and then gradually worked into the role of CRO. And that's not typically, a route that we see a lot into the chief revenue officer seat. So what prompted that transition for you?
Sure. Well, I agree with you. I don't think it's it's not common, but I don't know why. Because when I was in the chief marketing officer role, I found that my job primarily was to figure out how we were going to grow to each next stage, primarily through marketing functions, of which there's like 12 disciplines. That's content marketing, product marketing, PR, performance marketing. I mean, you name it. But I always found that when the CEO had to kind of like he had to deliberate between chief sales, chief marketing, chief customer, chief product. There were like 4 roles who were kind of contributing to the revenue strategy. And then the CEO needs to like make sense of that. And I'm like, well, I think I'd be better suited in the CRO role where I can like work with each of those teams and come up with one strategy. So I just found that I was doing that work anyway. And I found that for the CEO provides a lot of leverage when there's just one person that they can go to and say like, hey, how are we going to get to the next growth milestone? So that's kind of like what prompted that.
That's interesting. What made you at that time as the CMO feel like that you like, let's say, more so than the chief sales officer, for example? Why were you the one looking at all these things, all these different departments?
Interestingly enough, I think we were both doing it. It's just that if I had a different idea than the chief sales officer, how does one make sense of that? The CEO has to kind of like review 2 strategies. And so when I was at when I was at Electric, this was like an obvious area of opportunity for the CEO. And I went to the CEO and I said, hey, make me the CRO because I think I can, help navigate our course from 50 million to 100 million. It turns out, like most companies, he's like, okay, I agree with you. I think I need a CRO, but I want one that's done the journey 50 to 100. I was like, that sounds awesome, but I want to go somewhere where I can do it. And that's how I made the move from, electric to team pay. And by the way, I understand that entrusting one person with the revenue growth story from 50 to 100 million is, uh it would be a risk for the CEO to put somebody who hasn't done that perhaps, in that seat. So, it was totally like an amicable change, but I was like, "You know what? I think I can do this." And so I moved to team pay where I was able to kind of oversee the whole function.
That's awesome, and you have to start somewhere, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Like, even with me at USC, like, I started off being, just, like, their copywriter and grew into the marketing manager role, and yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Like, like every function, I would also say, Rachel, like the best chief XOs, whatever that middle initial R, M, S, P, C. It's always just about, are you good at identifying the person who's better at you than the job you need done? And so, even as CRO, well, at Help Scout, well, I help direct the revenue strategy. I have a great head of sales. I have a great head of marketing. Like you still need heads of functional experts who are exceptional. It's just that the revenue strategy being done by one person, I find to be like very beneficial in terms of leverage for the CEO.
So through all these different roles that you've done, either CRO or CMO at Help Scout, Team Pay, the other different companies you've worked with, what's been like the through line in the types of operational challenges you've faced across all of them?
I would say at the highest level, I think that there's still a gap in how planning is done at organizations, and thinking about the business you have today and then the business you want in the future. One of the models or frameworks that I use at organizations when I join to help companies like fill that gap is, it's basically this framework called the Enterprise 5 by Iconic. Iconic is a very, very popular portfolio company. I have some of the top portfolio companies on the planet. They have this matrix that looks at 5 metrics. That's why they call it the Iconic Enterprise 5. And it's like year-over-year growth, Rule of 40, magic number. That's like your sales and marketing efficiency. That's ARR per FTE. There's like 5 metrics that they have. And then what they did was they basically said, based on your size, revenue size of company, what metrics should you be? These are the metrics that have highest valuations for the companies in our portfolio in the median and top decile of metrics. So, for example, the median portfolio company at 25 to 100 million has a growth rate of 65% or more ARR. That means these are some of the highest valuations of these companies because they have a growth rate of 65% or more. And then if you go down the list, you can just look at all the metrics by each of the revenue stages. And so you can use whatever framework you want. But one of the practical things I do is to take that matrix and I talk to the CEO and the CFO about that and the financial planning team and say, we're a $25 million company. We want to be 100. What metrics do we need to meet? And even if it's not the same as what's in the Iconic Enterprise 5, like metrics rubric, it's a conversation starter. So even having the conversation about the type of company you want to be helps you back into that, right? Like we are in a very competitive market at Help Scout. I don't think in the next year we're gonna be at a 65% growth rate, but we have to say, "Well, is it possible that we're gonna be that in 3 years?" If not, if the answer is no, well, we have to nail the other 4 metrics, for example. So anyway, I know that
Mhm.
was kind of a long-winded answer,
No,
but
no.
I think the framework picking a framework by which you can say, these are the 5 metrics, 3 to 5 metrics that would make us an value exceptionally high valued company in 3 years, I think is just a great thought starter because that's the job of the CRO. When you hire me, you're hiring me to create more enterprise value for the company. Well, how will we know if we did that? We need like, numbers. Even if it's on paper, it's just still like, I think a great thought exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, like being the CRO, you're supposed to be the one who's able to like kind of see around the corners on revenue and the future of where the company is going. And
Absolutely.
so you use this like in your annual planning, for example, as well, I'm guessing?
Exactly right. Yeah, each year we check in on it and we check that with the board. We are like this is our view of what a great business looks like. Do you agree? Because we're beholden to our investors to create more enterprise value, and And sometimes the markets change. Like I said, year over year, ARR growth has been difficult for a lot of companies in this market. Obviously, with the advent of AI and like, incumbents being attacked and those kinds of things. It's like, well, we have to be realistic about what we can achieve. Is this still okay? Do we need more investment in a certain area in order to like beat that number that we have on paper? But like I said, it's still just like a if I can communicate one thing, it's mostly just like you need a starting point for this conversation to talk about what enterprise value means by numbers, not just like, this conceptual idea of like growth. It's more than just growth. It's a few things. So,
Mhm. Has there ever been, a situation where you kind of knew what was coming using these numbers and indicators, but you had trouble getting others to see it from your point of view?
well, less so about the consensus of what the numbers needed to be, more about making sure we had a balanced reality of whether or not it was possible. Planning can happen on paper, and it can be, like, the most beautiful company you've seen in terms of, like, its financials, but you need somebody who has operated for many years to give you the check on that thing. I can tell you right now, in a competitive market, if you are not spending an outsized amount in sales and marketing, where you care less about Rule of 40 and you are hell-bent on growth, you may need to reconsider that a little bit because thinking you're gonna grow in a competitive market with the same or less spend year over year, uh, it sounds nice, it's difficult, and I think being an operator who can confidently say that and show the numbers as to why, I think that's the job. As hard as that may feel, being realistic, I think, with your shareholders is, like, your fiduciary responsibility.
Have you ever had, like, a specific situation come to mind where you're using these numbers to create, decisions for, whatever department in the revenue organization to change or reallocate resources or something like that to, like, reach these goals that you have for the company?
All the time. This is the job. Yeah, it's like it's what I do for a living. It's really negotiating, and I'll give you an example. We're a product-led growth company. I'm negotiating all the time with our CPO, Chief Product Officer. So there's 3 of us on team. There's a CFO, COO, a Chief Product Officer. He runs our experience organization. That's product and engineering. And then there's me. I run the commercial team. So that's sales, marketing, partnerships, account management, et cetera. Um, I'm only spending, 15% of revenue on sales and marketing, and he's spending 60% on sales of revenue on R&D. And so we're challenging each other because I'm like, you have the lion's share of the budget. There should be an outsized requirement for product and engineering to deliver revenue because of that. And if not, is there a renegotiation we need to have in terms of budgets? Maybe we need to drive more demand. Maybe we need a bigger sales team, those kinds of things. So it's a constant negotiation of how we allocate capital. But I think that's the other big role I have, which is capital allocation. If you follow the money from lending partner to venture capital to CEO, I mean, they're giving people like me the money, and they're saying, "You have to allocate this capital like a hedge fund manager. You gotta put it in the bets that are gonna make the company more money, more enterprise value." So you have to get very good at that, and that's kind of like one of the notes I think I sent you before, we had this chat, which is you have to get very good at being able to uh, advocate and then allocate the capital. I think that's like 2 very critical, very important chief level responsibilities.
So on that line of, capital allocation, being able to like negotiate and stand up for, the numbers that you're putting forward, what were or how does this manifest in like real life discussions and negotiations? Like,
Absolutely.
how are you using this data to plead your case?
It's a great question. I I mentor a lot of CMOs about this because I hear from a lot of CMOs that the CEO and the CFO isn't willing to kind of like fork over budget. That's actually a problem with the plan. I don't think it's like I think it's commonly misunderstood problem in that the CEOs and the CFOs don't want to like invest in marketing. It's like, actually, I think that they wanna do nothing more than invest in marketing, but you have to be an expert at telling the story using, like, the data and the dollars to show why this plan is going to create more enterprise value. Um, if they're giving you money, show them exactly how those dollars are going to be allocated to drive more growth. And I can give you an example of this. First, any budget that I've ever been given, just right off the bat, 80% of it I typically put in like performance, demand capture, demand creation, marketing mix programs. I could talk through some of those. The other 20% is typically in like brand building activities where we're going to maybe like spend money on an agency to help us with a campaign or invest in campaign level TV where we're just showing ads, video ads, and those kinds of things where maybe we don't expect a direct return on that right away. But you want to basically create this picture for the company, which shows how those investments are being allocated. Okay, this is our marketing mix. We're going to invest in events, webinars, podcasts, affiliate marketing, PR, brand campaigns, performance marketing, search, LinkedIn, Spotify, Reddit, whatever. You share your whole list of where the investments are going. You show that some are demand capture. You're like paid search. This is going to drive direct signups to our company. But some of these other things, we don't know. I'm gonna put kind of placeholders here for the demand I think we can create. And you just show the mix. And I think the second piece of that is getting good at forecasting and showing actuals against that plan, saying like, well, here's how each of them performed. We're gonna cut this out and we're gonna move money over here and double down on it. I just think the more transparency you can create around what the capital is being used for, and your forecasts and then actuals, like closing the loop with the teams on like why you did what you did and what you're going to cut or reinvest in. That's part of how you, I think, bring people along for the excitement they should feel in investing in your plan versus like, I don't know what marketing does. Be clear. If you're clear and you're like, I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try it. Okay, let's try it. We're trying to build, momentum and brand here. So, let's kind of put some dollars behind it. I have yet to have a CFO or CEO who's like, I don't want to spend. It's because it's clear. And again, it's not all going to work. That's the art in marketing. But I think you have to be very good, just like sales is at forecasting their number. You have to be good at forecasting your opportunities or your signups if you're PLG. So
Yeah, and I've faced this problem as well, like trying to figure out, budget allocation for different types of marketing experiments, different channels we're trying to explore and stuff like that. And an issue that seems pretty common, I think, with any marketing department is having, you know, accurate enough data to support these claims, and a big part of that is attribution. It's like the big scary word attribution. It's like how no one has perfect attribution, right? So how have you approached that, and how have you dealt with the big attribution issue in creating clean and accurate enough data to you know create these cases for
it's
yourself?
so good. It's such a good question because it's like a black box. However,
Mhm.
I show the plan and let me just give you an example. If I say paid search is going to increase signups by 25% based on 25% increase in spend, that channel, when we look at it directly, is like, maybe it got us like 10 more leads. But if you look at the whole bucket on the bottom right, that's up. That's up 25%, which is like, well, that comes from organic, that comes from direct. No, it's not going to be in those buckets because we just lost the attribution, but it is going to show up in the bottom right. So I make note of that in the plan. Like, look, the attribution is wonky. We're going to do our best. When we can capture it, we're going to show you. But the thing that I need you to focus on is whether or not the overall number we are trying to impact, again, for our company, which is like signups of a quality score of 30% or more, has gone up. So the mix is working. What we're going to continue to do, though, is turn some up and turn some down based on signals we're getting for the overall number. So I can tell you that if I turn up LinkedIn, that number is not going to change at all. So we're not going to keep LinkedIn on, for example. I mean, that's not the case with every organization. It works great for some. Um, I do know that when I turn paid search up, organic and direct also goes up by the same amount of our spend. So like, are we able to show that in the number, like the exact attribution? No, but the bottom right, all of it working together went up. So it's tough. I mean, I've been doing marketing for 20 years, and every day somebody's asking me about attribution, and I'm like, "Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Just don't think about it, okay?
Don't think
Money's
about it."
coming
I'm
in,
like,
it's fine.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, are we increasing revenue? That's that's the thing we should be focused on, and the mix is going to be a little bit wonky in terms of its, like, exact the lines, but no, it's dotted and all of it's working together.
Mhm. What happens then if you're pulling multiple levers kind of at the same time? So, like, you're raising, um, budgets on SEO or paid, search and stuff like that, but then you've also changed some copy on your website, or you've changed your messaging a bit, or, a little campaign went out with, like, an influencer, for example, and then revenue went up, but you're looking at that period of time
Totally.
and you're like, "I'm not sure." We can't really say what made that revenue went up go up, and also taking into account, like, the sales cycle and the lag. So, like, how long do we wait to see that revenue go up to be able to attribute that to, like, this change that we made 3 months ago?
Love these questions. I would say first, I do try to turn as few levers as possible so that on the always on there are always on levers like search and social that you can just keep on. Then there are campaigns like an email where like we blast out. So we did a Black Friday email and our signups were up 30% on that day. And I'm like, okay, well, the only thing we did on that day was the email. Again, maybe it was a surge, like SEO surge. I don't know, but I doubt it because it's always on. So there are these loose things that and by the way, email can't hurt. So I'm like, we're just going to keep doing that, assuming our unsubscribes are low and the interaction is high. That means, okay, this is valuable to some people. Um, and to address your sales cycle question, our sales cycle is 30 days. So we have almost instantaneous feedback loop. But I would say that it's probably the same feedback loop. At TeamPay, our sales cycle was 3 months. It's still almost the same instantaneous time frame if I turn up or down something based on demos requested or signups. So are we really looking at the top of the funnel when we're, like, making adjustments on that? Because that probably will happen pretty quickly.
Yeah,
It may not
that's
follow all
nice.
the way through to deal,
Yeah, yeah.
but you will know you will get a signal if you have it
Mhm,
on for, like, 2 weeks. You're like, "Okay, we've been up 10% every day since this always on campaign has been, like, going," and so it's a pretty safe bet.
mhm. That's awesome. It's a little bit annoying for people with, like, 90-day sales cycles. Like, you gotta wait a little bit longer when you're running experiments like this. I'm sure, like, depending it's always on a case-by-case basis. I don't think there's any, like, one solid playbook for every company, but, um, I'm sure there's, like, other leading indicators to, like, see if something is kind of working before you see that revenue number come in.
Absolutely, like signups or demos, like you're gonna know in 2 weeks, you don't wait 90 d you don't need 90 days or even 6 months. You're like, "Okay, well, we did this," and again, you're looking for, like, small signals. You're like, "Well, was there a 10% increase? We raised the budget 10%. Was there a requisite 10% increase in the last 2 weeks, in demos or signups? Great, let's assume the win rate holds on all these additional channels because that's the other thing you're gonna need to evaluate, but you'll need 90 days. But these are the conversations with a good plan that you'll talk through, and one of the documents that I have I don't know if you're sharing this out, Rachel, later, but I actually have a spreadsheet that I've shared with, companies before in the past, which is like 3 tabs. The first tab is determining marketing's contribution to revenue. Once you get that number, so like you determine if it's coming from marketing, sales, SDR, AE, BD, M&A, wherever the revenue is kind of associated, you determine marketing spend on the first tab. Once you have that number, the second tab is the budget. That's how marketing should have negotiation with the CEO, CFO to say, look, we're going to call this the marketing budget, but just to be clear, this is the business's budget. It's not my budget. It's not the marketing team's budget. It's a business's marketing budget because that helps like disassociate, I think, sometimes the like idea that it's just like the marketer's idea of what the budget should be. It's like a very factual, like sort of like a logical way to talk through things like, well, this is what our win rate is. This is our opportunity cost. This is the ACV. It's more like these are the facts of the business that help us generate the marketing budget. And once you get the marketing budget, both in terms of like non-comp spend and comp spend for um, people and programs, you're all like coming at the problem from the same place, which is like, okay, well, we already determined marketing has a number. Now that marketing has a number, we already determined how marketing's budget is being produced. Now we have the budget. Let's go deploy that. And the deployment, again, this is the point you were making. I'm like, there's no playbook. It's nuanced. The deployment of that is all nuanced to the business. Maybe you wouldn't do events because you're only selling to, 1 to 10 employee. Maybe it's too small for you to have an event strategy. So you knock that off. But you want to allocate some to paid, you want to allocate some to LinkedIn. Again, that spreadsheet is just a good alignment place along the three most important components, which is marketing's number, marketing's budget, and then marketing's tactics. Then you're like, okay, do we all agree this is a good place to start? Feels more collaborative. It's based in facts about the business. Like again, I'll stop here because I've been like kind of rambling on this, but the two most important things I think that sometimes are not clear. The marketing budget is primarily determined by how much it costs to generate that opportunity or deal, whatever. I'm sorry, my thumbs up.
Oh, the
And
little
the
thumbs up thing.
it is yeah, little thumbs up. And the second is win rate, because that's the point at which marketing has handed over the deal to sales. If win rate is low, marketing budget goes up. The higher the win rate, the lower the marketing budget. So it's like a team sport for the marketing budget. You can't just say like marketing needs all these dollars. It's like I would need less if our ACV was higher and if our win rate was higher. So do we want to like model that in, or are we going to keep it as is? If we keep it as is, no problem. But this is why I'm requesting as much money as I am. I'm going to do my best to bring it down or like bring it up, and optimize the budget. But like these are the facts of the business. So anyway, again, just going back to collaborating real time on this stuff, I think helps.
Yeah, and in that vein, like, how does that translate over to sales as well? So now as CRO, you're not just looking at the marketing, you're looking at sales, CS, everything else, right? So when we're talking about like negotiating budgets and stuff and turning little knobs or levers to see what works, how does that work in sales? Like, we talk a lot about, changing certain sales processes, like increasing or decreasing your lead response times, for example, making sure your sales process is correctly implemented in the CRM, making sure your sales managers are, like, coaching to that process and all this stuff, which might not necessarily be, like, budget that you're putting into sales to do these things, but they're, like, those little knobs, those little things that you're changing.
Well, I mean, you could certainly be the head of sales at any company based on all the things you talked about, because those are all the levers I would have been pulling. Um, Between sales and marketing, I think there's a very important meeting that needs to happen, which is the SLA meeting. And that's to say, I marketing has a number. We're gonna commit to giving you 100 opportunities at a 25% win rate so that you can hit that you can hit the number. The meeting is about what qualifies the lead, which again may not be news based on your other guests or whatever, but I think it's a very important like alignment point, because if we both agree that this is what quality means and you're going to agree to a 25% win rate and I get you 100 opportunities, it's very clear then to not assign blame, but to hold the people accountable. If marketing missed the 100 opportunities at that quality level, marketing's problem. If sales got 100 opportunities at that quality level and closed them 5 points lower than they said they would, sales problem. So, I like the accountability of a meeting like that, because there's a million knobs you can turn in order to increase win rate or to get more opportunities. But if you don't know whose problem it is to solve, that's when the finger pointing can happen.
Yeah, and I love that collaboration between sales and marketing so much because a lot of companies they have marketing quotas based off of like MQL volume and stuff like that. We really advocate for having marketing be at least somewhat responsible for total company revenue and like to some degree like win rates and stuff like that. Because if marketing isn't bringing in the type of quality leads that sales can actually work with, then it doesn't matter how many MQLs they're bringing in. So yeah, I love that like interconnectedness between sales and marketing and like everyone rowing in the same direction towards
Yeah,
a
I mean,
revenue goal.
and you need a document which clearly outlines, also, again, another spreadsheet I have, which is very clear about entrance and exit criteria for what makes something qualified. I think if you are splitting hairs with the chief sales officer as the head of marketing or whatever, you're not clear about what quality means, and that's why it's, like, painful to have that meeting and, like, belabor the point. But if you start to go down this path of, um, like, opaqueness and what an opportunity is, again, I don't think you can hold the right teams accountable. So, I think spending time on, like, your SLAs is such a good use of time.
Quick pause. If you're getting value from this episode, I want to ask you a small favor. Take 30 seconds right now, open up the app you're listening to this on, and give us a 5-star rating. It sounds small, but it's the single biggest thing you can do to help us get conversations like this in front of more revenue leaders. While you're there, hit follow so you never miss an episode. Okay, let's get back into it.
When you first stepped into, a CRO role at TeamPay or even at Help Scout, did they have those interconnected tissues already together, or was it kind of like super separated and you had to build that from the ground up?
Team pay, we needed to do more work there. I brought in a head of sales, he created an SLA, and then we were very clear what marketing needed to deliver. So built out. Uh, Help Scout was very interesting. We needed to do less technical building. Like they had the routing in place. They were very good about, what criteria meets, what we had eHawk installed, which is software that's like really gets rid of any junk. It's like it was like a much more sophisticated set of systems. We had different conversations at Help Scout, mostly when should sales be engaging if we have a PLG motion. So we did more around that. Like when I first started, sales was touching every single opportunity, even the 1 to 10s. And I'm like, why are we doing that? I don't think that this group needs more support from sales, and it's not a good use of time. And our ACVs are staying low because you're all involved in this. If we need sales, we should really be focused more up market. And so we drew the line there, and I said sales is not allowed to touch 1 to 10s. And the ACV over time, obviously for sales, has been going up because we're spending more time on more meaningful deals. So it was more like strategic questions and the things to focus on at Help Scout than it was like more technical, like at Team Pay, where like I don't even know what an opportunity is, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So they were
bad.
just yeah, right. Or it's not that they didn't know what it was. It's just that there was no real definition around it.
Mhm. And that, I mean, for a lot of teams can almost be the same thing, because if you don't have, like, a written definition somewhere where somebody can, like, reference that, if they're curious, then it's kind of like, an opportunity is whatever you think it is, and it's gonna
It's
be
whatever
different
you
from
think.
each person. Yeah.
Exactly, and again, getting back to win rate, you don't know whose responsibility is it crappy opportunities, or is the sales rep just not doing a good job selling? And one of the things that you can do is just bake those requirements into Salesforce. Make it make it a requirement so that the person who's moving it is has to answer like yes or no to some of the things that you agreed was a qualified opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you mentioned before, about ACV, and, I know before the call we talked a little bit about pricing. I wanted to get into that a little bit. Um, yeah, on the topic of, like, ACV and, like, raising your ACV and changing your pricing, especially when it comes to something like what you guys do where you have commodified, AI features. Like, how are you figuring out how to price something like that?
Interesting. Okay, so interestingly enough, I think customer support is what I would consider maybe like a commodity industry in that I think you need a customer support platform to solve customer support issues. I don't think it's this it's not a nouveau software. I think everybody knows differentiating features and functionality now beyond that is the name of the game. It's like, how do you make each person supercharged so that every customer that they support is served faster, better than the last that they did? And so AI has really stormed in on this industry because certainly it can answer some customer support questions faster than a person just because some of them don't need a person. Like reset my password was like the first example of that. Don't ask a person to reset anymore, you know? Um, so as AI features have like come onto the scene, one of the things we were challenged with at Health Scout is how to price it. So we went through a big pricing exercise with a company called Motivate. So if any CROs are thinking about a pricing exercise, highly recommend them. Incredible organization, really, really thorough, helped us think about what pricing models made sense because now we have AI features that support our customer support agents. Um, the original idea that our CEO had was to make it all consumption based. So just flip our pricing model instead of user based pricing to 100% contacts helped. So every contact you help, we charge you for versus how many people are using seat licenses to charge them. What we found though was that while uh, AI is becoming more of a known important feature, sometimes some companies, those that serve B2B, for example, aren't interested in using it. And so, pricing everyone like this alienated some people who want it. So we went back to user-based pricing and we added consumption-based pricing as an add-on. So that's the pricing we have today. But that was a journey. We to be first in market with something that was innovative and AI forward. But the market didn't necessarily meet us there yet. So we went back to something that was more palatable for them.
So what was that like aha moment that made you realize that that was the best way to do it?
Lots of customer conversations. We just realized that basically the long and the short of it is the pricing for some customers was just wildly different. And if it's a plan that's to work for all, it shouldn't be. It should be more centralized around, like, some people are gonna get a small increase, some people are gonna get a small decrease, not some people are gonna get hundreds of percent increase and someone's gonna get 100% decrease. The span was too far. So, ultimately, we just said, "Look, the this needs to work for everyone all the time, not some people some of the time." And that disparity in how we were, like, kind of, like, pricing and bringing it to market became our aha moment, like, "Okay, maybe we need to go back to something that feels a little bit closer to how the market is currently pricing." And currently, I think everyone in customer support is pricing the same way. There's seats, which is basically your platform fee, and then if you want AI, you just add it on.
Mhm. And I know, and this question could be applicable for pricing or kind of anything else that you've dealt with in like customer feedback. I know this can be like a bit of an issue, especially with SaaS trying to get customer feedback, where the customers are like telling you one thing, but then they're doing another thing, or their actions kind of like seem like they want a different thing. Have you experienced any of that?
Well, I think as far as, like, building product is concerned on customer feedback, I think our CPO talks about this a lot, and I'm totally gonna, like, mess up the analogy he was using or the story about this, which is, like, if Ford asked what kind of cars he should make, people would have said, Make faster horses." So, I think getting customer feedback on innovative things that, look a little bit beyond the scope of, like, somebody's day to day inside the product is, that's the be all end all of, like, product development. Um, AI, on the other hand, we know everybody wants to some extent, but for example, if you are a B2B software company and you serve businesses, you don't want AI talking to a $40,000 account. You just want people talking to a $40,000 account. So, when we were, thinking through, product features and innovation, uh, we so it's a fine balance between taking the customer feedback and looking to the future on, like, what we think, people should be using. So, but I
Mhm.
leave that problem to the CPO. I have enough problems
Yeah.
on the revenue side.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested in talking more about like how you're combining, the customer success stuff, the feedback that you're getting with your sales and your marketing, and how those feedback loops are working with each other.
They're working, yeah, they're actually we have a monthly go-to-market alignment meeting, so it's all the PMs, and then it's all the, like, heads of my teams, all the commercial teams, and we meet, and basically we go through win-loss reasons, and we're saying, like, here are some questions, like, big customers are having, here are some questions some small customers are having. Dylan, our head of sales, is like, "Here are reasons why we lost this month," and we've been able to align in, like, such an incredible way, better than any company I've ever worked at before. The CPO and I have such a great relationship, but, really just saying, "Can we prioritize this thing together?" Like, product isn't off in a corner building something that I don't know about. The collaboration is, like, one for one. If I'm like, "Hey, we heard this in the market." He's like, "Awesome. where does it belong in terms of prioritization? And in the last year, we released 5 features that I'm like, we really needed to win the larger deals. And now we have that big unlock. But that requires a lot of he's a very low ego product officer, which means he has a vision and he has ideas about where we should be going, but he's also realistic to say the commercial teams need these things. So let me make sure they get prioritized also. So takes a very mature person to like understand that concept, I think, but I'm happy, with that I have him as a partner.
That's awesome. And I wanna go back to those 5 features you mentioned. How did you guys figure out that you needed those features, and what was the response from your customer base or even, like, revenue numbers or percentage increases?
We definitely moved up win rate. Every point in win rate is material. So we were at a 25% win rate. We're at like 29%, at the moment. And I think that's 3 features specifically were unlocks for larger customers. That's group by company, round robin, and SLA. Some of our ideal customer profile. We also make all decisions or prioritize all decisions within the ideal customer profile to mean like this is our ideal customer and they want these things. This is a high priority item. And those 3 things were on the list. And so what we did was we basically put them in packages now. So like in Plus and Pro. And our sales team knows to sell that. Now we can basically check it off the list. We don't have it as a blocker. But the reason we knew that this was a problem or blockers is because every time we lose a deal, we have to record it in Salesforce. And every single month, I have him bring the report that talks about how much revenue we did not make because we didn't have those things. So it just makes the prioritization efforts a little bit easier.
I love that. So you had, like, data documentation of why you lost those customers, like, they wish they had this feature, they wish they could do this, and you had the number alongside it, how much money was lost because you didn't have that features, and you're able to, like, take that dollar amount and, like, you can't really deny the numbers,
You
right? When
can't
you put
debate
it
that. What are we
Yeah,
talking about? I'm
yeah,
like, we're not this isn't like my idea of fun
yeah,
time,
yeah,
fun time, like feature requests. It's like this is just the factual information. But again, it takes someone like Scott, our CPO, to again, maybe it's a low ego thing. I don't know typically where that comes from, but like he's not like, "Oh, my ideas should trump what the market is telling me." In some cases, some ideas actually should trump what the market is telling us because maybe we have a better vision of where it's going, but it can't be all the time. So maybe allocate just like marketing where 80% is performance related and 20% is brand. There should be a similar mindset with product, which is like 80% knocks off all the features and 20% is like innovation, you know? But but and now we're like able to point to more revenue. So like
yeah.
that's fun, you know?
Yeah, higher win rates and everything, yeah, and, like, not just higher win rates, but I'm guessing, like, you're able to land these bigger, like, enterprise accounts, right? So,
Exactly.
I mean, what was that? A 4% win rate increase, but, like, however percent revenue increase, that's probably
Exactly.
huge.
Because it's 4 points. It's actually like
Yeah.
a 25% increase,
Oh,
you know?
okay.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's it's like we went from like 25 to like 29, 4 points. I think that yeah, I think that's like a 25% increase. That's that's huge, we're and again, great because then I could technically like need less marketing budget because it doesn't cost us as much to make that revenue, and that's why I always say to marketing leaders, you have to talk about win rate when you're trying to get a budget together because you are constrained by that number because it's the lowest point in the funnel. It's the highest levered number. It it makes a big difference when it's up. So
Yeah, and there's so much that goes in that win rate too that, like, marketing is a part of. So, the amount of time that each sales rep is having to spend, talking to a person or even for outbound, like, are they even able to get that first response in outbound? A lot of that can come down to not always, but can come down to, your brand presence, and have they seen any marketing previously? Because then suddenly it's not a cold email, it's like a little bit of a lukewarm email where they recognize your name at least, and that helps quite a lot. And you don't see that in attribution data, right? You see like a increase in like outbound sales, but it's because a lot of it might be because marketing just put out this huge brand campaign, and people are recognizing the brand now when they have outbound outreach come to them.
absolutely. I say brand makes demand more efficient. Like anytime you want to generate demand, but you've done brand building work, it makes all those other demand generating exercises just more efficient, you know? And that's the reason to put 20% of your budget towards it, even if you can't attribute. And by the way, when you allocate the 20%, be like, I don't want to talk about this. Don't ever ask me
Yeah.
about the 20% again. I don't know what it's going to do, but just trust me.
Yeah.
But those are the early conversations you want to have right when you join the company to make sure you have alignment with the leaders about those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you said, you mentioned like this meeting that you guys have. I can't remember what you called it.
Go to market alignment.
Go to market alignment. Yeah. We talk a lot about something very similar called pipeline council. We tell people like have pipeline council meetings where it's like the head of each revenue department, products, sales, marketing, everybody can come together and talk about like the issues that you're having in regards to your revenue. So it could be anything. And then like it's not a meeting to just show numbers and pat each other on the back, but like you're actually not withholding any punches or anything like that. You're talking about the issues, you're coming up with real solutions on the spot right there, agreeing on like next steps before the meeting ends and like going forward with that. So,
Yeah, I think the theme is just about this like open communication about the facts of the business. It's you're not doing anyone any favors if you don't call out the facts, whether that's ACV is a limitation. If we don't raise that, I'm going to need marketing budget. Win rate, if it's low, I'm going to need more marketing budget. Where is this business in 3 years? If this is what creates enterprise value, how are we going to get there? What are we going to do in order to set ourselves up? So yeah, it's just again, it's like continued open dialogue about the realities of the business.
yeah, and you need like the operational avenues to have that open dialogue. And we see this all the time, like siloed departments, marketing has no way to talk to sales, customer success has no way to talk to marketing, and they maybe don't even see reason to talk to marketing when in reality, like if you're in a recurring revenue business, and I've said this before, like that revenue needs to recur. So whatever's happening in customer success, like that's so important for sales and marketing and product to know because first of all, they need to know what types of customers are churning all the time or having issues with the product, and maybe they're not actually ICP and they need to be cut from that definition, and which customers are like, really able to expand, really enjoying the product. And then they need to be focused on more in marketing and sales attempts. Like it should be this full like water cycle essentially of feedback going around and around and enforcing, your definitions and your processes and the way you do everything.
I could not agree more. I actually, when I talk to people about joining the next company, the first question I ask them, I'm like, well, what's their gross retention? Because if gross retention is bad, like how much money they're keeping every year from their reoccurring revenue, if that's bad, the first place that people don't want to invest is in the top of the funnel because they just don't want a leaky bucket. So for sales and marketing leaders in particular, that's definitely like a very important part of the process. But also you mentioned this, and I just want to like double down on that. Um, the benefit of having a CRO in an organization. Again, it's not for every organization, and maybe there's reasons why they need to be separate functions. But the benefit of CRO is that actually I'm able to mitigate any lack of collaboration or any infighting on a particular thing because I'm one person who can deliberate that thing. I'm like, marketing's, sales like, "These are crappy leads," and I'm like, "Qualify more." And then I'm going to marketing, I'm like, "Why are they crappy?" Like, I'm able to kinda see full cycle on all the problems, and I don't have, like, a favorite child.
Yeah.
I, like, need it
Yeah.
all to work, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there shouldn't be a favorite child, absolutely. I think a lot of
Exactly.
companies, especially and I not to like, CROs who come from sales backgrounds are amazing, and we've talked to so many amazing ones. So this isn't to like rag on them at all, but a lot of the times when you come from a sales background, you have that drive for new logo business and to like that, closing more and more deals on the front end of things. And it can be hard to, you know, think about at what happens after the sale and like how, that information needs to feed the front end and like recurring revenue. Like, are you having issues with retaining your customers or do you have like huge blind spots in your expansion opportunities? Because that's also a sales thing, a sales and customer success thing. But now I feel like I'm
Totally.
rambling.
No, no,
Yeah.
I just could not agree more with this
Yeah. Yeah.
point. And I don't know if you've seen, Winning by Design has that bow tie model, I'm sure somebody's brought that up, but to the point you're making, actually, like, the right half of the bow tie, which is, like, the reoccurring part of the base, that compounds. So if you are not paying attention to that, which is, like, basically the moneymaker, it's a problem. It's a really big lever, and you need to.
Absolutely. We talk about this all the time too. We're going to be putting out like more customer success focused content as well. And I know like a lot of our audience they don't really care too much about customer success. Not everyone, but the numbers, you know. But we're going to put it out anyway because it's so important and people need to care about it. So it's
Especially a revenue leader, like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah,
recurring
the
revenue leader.
orientation for new is so high because 'cause we're like, logos and new and, but then it goes to the base, it's actually the more productive use of our time probably because it's, like I said, it compounds, so I love that you're gonna be putting more of that, and I will be tuning in to
Thank
that
you.
content.
And yeah, and I wanted to ask too, like what are the current like operational challenges you guys are facing right now? If you're able to share, like what are the goals and things that you're working on currently?
We have, again, we keep talking about the commoditized, market. I'm using that for lack of a better term. I'm just saying it's competitive. So, um, our current challenge is accelerating new ARR, because we actually have a great base and recurring revenue is great. Customers actually love Help Scout when they get on it. I just need more of them to get on it. And so what I'm trying to solve now is ACV. How do we bring that up? The average contract value because we're a PLG and we sell into small businesses, so there's probably an elasticity there, right? Like they're not going to want to pay like $1 million for the thing, but how do we like continue to add more value? And the second thing is whether or not we should move up market now that we've been closing some of these gaps I just told you about. We have like, so should I be hiring sales teams that are kind of up further up the funnel and go hunt there because we're like now a more sophisticated platform? Those are some things that we're thinking about. Um, and then the last thing I'm thinking about is, how much more time and investment do we put into brand? Because, I mean, like, I think people will be laughing if they heard me talking about this analogy, but, like, if you sell mayo, I'm not, like, equating, like, our industry to, like, the mayo industry, but it's like, if you continue to change the mayo label, I don't think there's, like, there's not, like, an infinite number of dollars that are gonna, like, increase your mayo buy. I think maybe you might sell a little bit more because you changed the label, but I don't know, like, by how much, and so I'm trying to decide, like, how much does brand move the volume of mayo bottles that we wanna kind of, like, produce, or should I be increasing the channels, like, the distribution of mayo out to stores? Like, we're in Whole Foods, blah, 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 blah. Like, if we're in 2 stores, should we be in, like, 50? Like, the distribution, So I'm just trying to figure out, like, where time should be spent in terms of, like, brand related to some of these other opportunities for growth.
Yeah, it's like what is your current problem? Is it like a scale slash distribution issue, or is it like the quality of like the brand content issue that's coming out?
I don't think it's the latter. I actually don't think that's the problem. I think it's the channels. But I don't know to what degree I wanna like, how much should I be investing there? I don't wanna take my eye off the brand ball, but, like, I so I'm just trying to, balance, and that's the capital allocation. I'm like, "What's gonna create the most enterprise value?" So those are the challenges I'm, like, thinking about.
And distribution is hard. Like that's a challenge that we're facing right now as well. You see, like, like we know we have great content, we have like a lot of stuff we're putting out, but like, how do we put it out more? Like, how do we get more eyes on it and stuff? And we've had tons
Oh,
of
exactly.
feedback from consultants and like really smart people telling us the same thing. And we're like, okay, so we know what we got to do, but like, how do you do that?
Yeah, right. Well, the quality of your content is your product.
Hmm.
The quality of our content isn't our product. Our product is our product. And so I content for us and helps and educate people about why the product is the best. But for you, I think the quality of content is increasingly more important
I don't
than
know. Well, cause our product, like we help go to market and revenue leaders execute on their strategies and the stuff they're trying to do, or we help people like with strategy if they're struggling. So I wouldn't say like our content is our product like in a way, I guess, because a lot of the stuff we do is the stuff we talk
Helps the
about in our content.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the
yeah.
content is more like showing authority and like getting our name out there.
It's in
So
service of your service, but I
yeah,
just mean,
yeah.
like, because if the content's great, somebody's gonna, like, agree that you are the product the expert, and so you're right, maybe, like, in a way, it's, like, very similar, but, like, if we write a blog post about customer support, we actually sell a technology, like, not, like, service around it, but I agree, like, I think everybody struggles with the distribution question. It's like, to what extent are you like, the quality of the content versus, like, you're getting more eyeballs on it, but well, anyway, if you crack the code, please let me know, 'cause
I absolutely will.
yeah,
We're trying,
right.
we're figuring out.
Yeah.
Same to you. If you crack it, also let us know.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, this has been great. We're coming up on time right away here, but thank you so much, Andrea. And where can people find you if they want to follow more along with what you're doing at Help Scout?
I think LinkedIn is best. Just
Okay,
my first
awesome.
name and my last name, you'll find me pretty quick.
Awesome. And that's kale. It sounds like the vegetable kale, but it's Kayal. And we'll also have that link in the show notes as well for you guys. You can just click that. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the episode. If this resonated, please give us a 5-star rating and a follow. It helps us reach more people, and you get our latest and greatest content without having to search for it. And if you're looking for hands-on help in go-to-market strategy and/or RevOps, please reach out to us. We help our clients with everything from annual planning to improving processes in go-to-market, implementing systems to support those processes, and go-to-market AI. We're always happy to offer a free consultation to help you identify the best opportunities to improve your go-to-market engine with or without our help. You can find us at unionsquareconsulting.com, and the info will be in our show notes.